Hi, I'm Alex Howard, and welcome to Conscious 2. My guest in the studio today is Duncan Bridgeman. Hi, Duncan.
Hi, Alex. I'm good, thanks.
And Duncan is one of the co-founders of One Giant Leap, which I don't really know how to describe, so I'm going to throw it straight over to Duncan to describe One Giant Leap. I mean, it's basically a feast for the eyes, the soul, the ears. I mean,
that's good. A feast for the soul. Okay, it's a very difficult thing to describe. I mean, we were really lucky. Me and my partner Jamie had been working together in a small padded cell in Acton, gluing pieces of music and dialogue together with the real single idea of trying to demonstrate that there aren't so many things as we think. Everything is joined. Yeah. And my music especially is all rhythm and harmony. So let's just see how many things we can stick together and keep it coherent. And we started doing these things. And Chris Blackwell, who was Bob Marley's producer, he heard it and said, "What do you want to do?" So we said, "We want to go around the world." The laptop had just come out. It was 1999.
Wow.
A long time ago now. And the first laptop, the old black one, heavy thing there by today's standards. And we went off, and he introduced us to Baba Mal, and Baba Mal was our first stop. So basically, the idea really was just to replace all the things we'd sampled with the real thing.
Okay.
But we got completely carried away, and then came up with the DVD had just come out, and we saw The Matrix, and kind of saw these chapters, and went, well, why don't we make an album that's a film, so you don't have to watch it in any order. It can be non-linear, and each song will give a chapter title: God, sex, money, inspiration. It worked. We glued it together, and I think we came up with a kind of new kind of genre. It's not for everyone, because it's non-linear. There's no stars in it. There's lots of famous people, but nobody comes back. We were lucky enough to get like Robbie Williams with Maxi Jazz and Asher Bosley and Michael Stipe, all kinds of people, but also the real genius of ordinary people. And mixing it in, we don't put names in, we don't try and sell the celebrity, we're just trying to sell that we are all one more of a package than we think we are.
But I think part of what is so
That
magical...
wasn't one sentence at all, was it?
That's why I can do one sentence. But
okay.
I think part of what is so magical about it is what you're describing, in a sense, is an incredible feat of musicianship, engineering, complexity, travel, logistics. But what came out of it was two beautiful, inspiring albums and moving films. I mean, it's kind of a miracle of complexity into something that, in a sense, you've got all these pieces, but actually what you're trying to create, and which you do create, is that sense of oneness.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Lovely, thank you. I'm not quite... I mean, I know every tiny little bit of every tiny little track and film and everything, but there is an ingredient in there that God put in that I really know is indistinguishable. I mean, it's just inherent in the whole thing. And just in case, just before we start talking too far, maybe we should show a little bit of what I do, or what it was. I mean, what I'd like to show is the first song that we did in like 1996. My partner Jamie was in Faithless, and he got Maxi Jazz to come down the studio, and we were talking about this idea of oneness, and he came up with the idea of doing a song called My Culture. And it really spun us onto Top of the Pops, which, if you're old enough to remember Top of the Pops, was an important thing at the time.
It was like the show.
Yeah, and we were in the top 10, We had Robbie Williams singing with Maxi Jazz. Anyway, so it has it's a Maori guy called George Nuku, who's a beautiful guy. He talked to us really humbly, and I just love the way he describes the way that we are all one family.
So, I mean, I think that clip gives a little bit of a taste of the kind of extravaganza, let's say, that One Giant Leap is. I think part of what's also, to me, really beautiful about it is there is all of this, as we were saying, these many moving pieces and complexity, but there is also, perhaps what you were saying was the bit that God put in, which is this kind of just creativity, just something that happens. Can you say something about that process, like what you see supports that kind of creativity?
I'd love to. The beast that is creativity. I mean, obviously, on a holistic level, we are all creative beings. We all create our reality. Everything is just a reflection of us. So that's a natural thing that we're born into, and we don't question. If you're lucky enough, somebody maybe tells you when you're young, and they go, oh, okay, I'm a creative, okay. But then, when you try and break it down into little bits, like you become, I was a musician for 20 years, writing songs, producing other songwriters, sitting in small rooms, playing with microphones and synthesizers, and suddenly the creativity is not organic anymore. You're actually kind of trying to force it, like because you get up in the morning and you have your porridge and a cup of coffee, go down the studio and go, okay, I'm going to be creative today.
And I think that's one of the things that for a lot of musicians is so difficult. They go from something which is a hobby that a passion that they love, to suddenly they've got to write to order. And I think for a lot of people, that's a very difficult transition.
Yeah, and in today's substance-driven world, it's a natural thing, and that's weird how, I mean, like I smoke a lot of marijuana, I have for 30 years. It opens up things in my head that give me ideas that weren't there before. And I know it's me, and I know so many musicians who are substance abusers, addicts, and it's kind of a difficult thing because you're trying to sustain this level of creativity, which might only come, like, you know, there is an argument to say that all real genius maybe have 1 or 2 years in their whole life where all their real genius happens, and then they spend the rest of their 60 years scratching their heads and drinking and smoking and trying to, you know, motivate it. Where actually, and I'm learning more as I get older, that I'm learning that gift is the unattachment to the end result of the creativity. Because if you're attached to the success, the money, or the other side effects of being famous and rich, then you're kind of missing the point. But actually, if you get out of the way, and I think this is what One Giant Leap has really taught me, is that we didn't have the foggiest of what was going to happen. We didn't have a plan. People say, wow, what a great idea to go around. We didn't have a plan. The only plan was to follow our noses and see, I mean, I use the God word quite a lot. I mean, I like to use it, to see where God takes you. And I don't necessarily mean a man with a white beard living up there going, no, God, go over there. But it was kind of like, you know, like so many lucky, happy accidents. Okay, well, maybe show another clip. One of the best ones was we were in a hotel in Jaipur in India having some curry, and our fixer said, oh, that woman over there, that's a really famous singer. I said, well, who's that? She's called Asha Bhosle. And at that point, I didn't know who Asha Bhosle was. I know now that she's sung on more Bollywood films than ever. It's Brimful of Asha, blah, blah, blah. She's, you know, she's the number one, the queen. But we didn't know, so there wasn't this celebrity attached. I mean, if someone said that's David Bowie, then we went, oh my God, it's David Bowie, you know. But so we went over with a laptop and we said, you know, we schmoozed her and said, would you like to join in with this global improvisation we're doing? And for some reason, she said yes, you know. So we luckily, she let me finish my lunch, and then I'll go out into the garden and I'll sing for you. So we set the studio up in the garden, and at that point, I just had the chord structure. And then 4 months later, we were with Michael Stipe, who Jamie had accidentally met because Faith This was Michael Stipe's favourite track, you know, some other weird thing that we didn't plan. And suddenly we're in Michael Stipe's shed in his garden, playing him Asha Bhosle, and he's singing Dream, Dream, Dream with Asha Bhosle, and we're going, but yeah, so this is the way you dream. The way you dream, creativity.
This is one of my favourite tracks in One Giant Leap. It's just totally beautiful, beautiful song. And you were talking about creativity, that place of letting something happen. But how do you do that? You know, especially when there's pressure and there's attachment and trying to recreate this moment of genius that's been there before. How does someone get out of their own way and let that creative force move through them?
Well, as I've already said, there's substance abuse, which is probably the most common, and something we're all dealing with. I mean, the second film, our second project, What About Me, is really about addiction. And my Mexico film that I made is also about addiction. And I'm about to make a film in Bristol next year, which is going to be my next film, which really, I'm not admitting it to the people who are paying the money, or they might see this, but it'll be about, I mean, and when I say addiction, I'm not only talking about substance abuse, I'm talking about automatic behavior.
So, I mean, one way to put it, I remember someone once said to me, the ego structure is an addiction. because we are addicted to maintaining a sense of self, and a rigid sense of self. Rather than fluidly moving with that moment, we're addicted to keeping it the way it is.
Yeah, totally.
So
yeah. And for other people, I mean, I'm in a way, I'm an adrenaline junkie. I mean, I love putting myself in situations where I don't know what's going to happen.
So why you got a broken foot?
I got a broken foot. I went into a situation that... yes.
So I guess my question comes, apart from substance abuse, which I appreciate,
okay.
What else?
I'm getting there. Yeah. So, stepping out of the way and letting creativity to happen, when you see someone, I mean, I've met many amazing musicians, and the one that I think is the best at it is Baba Mal. Baba Mal just has this ability, and you see him, he's there, you're talking to him, blah, 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 and then he's not there anymore, and he's just singing stuff that he had no idea he was singing. What's important, though, is to have the safety net of technique. And I think, I mean, our mutual friend Martin, Martin Aylward, who's a very old friend of mine, one of the first people who showed the first one giant leap at his meditation retreat in the Pyrenees, and when it was even half finished, he was showing it to his friends. So we go back. But we were talking about that, about the mental stability, the safety net that mental stability can give you. I mean, the other thing that's going on massively on the planet right now is the awakening of plant medicine. And there's lots of people in the cities, people without any training, without any safety net, diving into very deep cosmic worlds.
You mean things like ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca, iboga, peyote, but ayahuasca's the one, the tea is the one that is sweeping the nation. And I'm actually involved in myself in that I'm just interested, and we're starting up a company called Good Medicine to kind of to unify this energy. But this is how I was talking about with Martin. I went in and my mind I'm not trained. My mind has no stability. And it ripped me to pieces. And I think that is what creativity can do if you're not trained. Luckily, like Baba Mal, he's sung for years and years. He just knows how to, when he opens his mouth, he knows a note's going to come out. I know the fretboard on the guitar or the keyboard, or I know these things. So when you've got that safety net, then you can let go. And I think that's the thing that you need to develop. That's the difference between like free will and some kind of God-like thing, and it's the mix between the two. That the free will is like, oh, I'm interested in awakening, so therefore I'll read books, I might meditate, I might do plant medicine, I might do yoga. There's so many different ways that you can put yourself towards it, but then when you actually get there, you've got to let go. And it's the same if I'm trying to write a song. I mean, I wrote, we may as well talk about that. I wrote the music that you heard at the beginning of the film.
I didn't want to put it at the start because I thought of all the incredible things you've done in your life. I didn't want you to be known to our audience just as the guy, but you did an amazing job writing the intro music for Conscious 2.
It was a peak experience, and I'll tell you, no, it was really weird because I finished my Mexico film like in 2012. I won the Best Mexican Documentary of 2013. I was on my big high horse. And then
you got a phone call from me.
Then I'm drifting around, and then I'm not working. I'm waiting, because when you do big projects, you don't get them every day, and nobody's really ringing. So you have to be patient. You have to kind of expand into the space between the gigs. It's a difficult one when you're self-employed. All you people who are self-employed out there, you know how difficult that is. Got to get another gig. What am I going to do? I know I'm finished. I'll never work again. I'm useless. Or something's coming. I trust that something's coming. So the first thing, I hadn't done anything really for about a year other than swan around pretending I was clever and sexy. And then suddenly you rang up and said, oh, yeah, we need, 25 seconds, 30 seconds of music, just a sting, I went, yeah, okay. I used to do commercials back in the 90s, so I'd done quite a lot of it. I was never that good at it because I take things too seriously. But this, because I know you and I love the idea of what you're doing, and I knew that Martin was going to be the opening, speech and all that, and I cared too much, and I didn't step out the way, and I spent well over a month.
I got a really good deal, didn't I?
Yeah, no, I got a really good deal. It doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, you got a good deal. No, but I got a good deal because I was challenged. They said, go on then, do 25 seconds. Come on, 25 seconds. How difficult could it be? What? Okay. And I went through a lot of stuff anyway, and that was really good to reawaken the concept of what is creativity, where's it coming from. I became output obsessed, so I couldn't get it right. And actually, although I took a month, the thing that is there is the first thing I did, first 5 minutes.
Funny, hey? So funny how that works.
Yeah, yeah. So my creativity is always there. I mean, I don't need substances. I don't need anything. All I need is to trust the process.
And you kind of touched
So
on
One Giant Leap is a perfect example of just letting go, because, you know, with One Giant Leap, once we blagged our way into someone, whether it's Dennis Hopper or Michael Stipe or a tabla player in the Rajasthani desert or whoever it is, when I'm there, I then have to think, oh, what am I going to do? So, you know, I have to have some music that inspires, and then I have to be able to, all those things that you talked about, mix it together, get them in tune, get them in key. Maybe they don't understand headphones, so I've got to deal with that issue. So the whole thing of like turning up, putting my bags down, and then going, something good's going to happen. I just trust that something good is going to happen. And it does.
Yeah. But there's also a place where it's not just a kind of something good will happen and just waiting.
It's a place of action.
Right. And I think that's the piece that I was curious to touch on a bit more, that there's the place of surrendering and allowing something to come through, and there's the place of taking action within that.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that? How do you know when to act and when to step back?
I probably shouldn't say what I'm about to say, because it's a whole completely different thing. But I am actually convinced there is no such thing as free will.
Well, let's have that conversation.
Okay, great. Me and Martin had it the other night, actually, because we both agree. Most people go, oh, it's nonsense, blah, 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 because people think about the control thing. The way I see it is, I can only be Duncan, that's broadly speaking, so I can only make Duncan-y type decisions. I was born from Zena and Leslie, who fed me a lot of information and a way of being and a way and a way of communicating with the world. And they were fed by their ancestors and da-da-da-da. So here I am, Duncan, at the cutting edge of Duncan. Okay, what am I going to do?
Duncan-ness.
Yeah, Duncan-ness. And I always try and do, we all try and be the best Duncan we can be, or you be the best Alex, you know. And sometimes you're not, and you beat yourself up about it, blah, blah, blah. But the things that happen are so clearly not in your control. Like One Giant Leap is a brilliant example. Falling in love is a great example for Ed that everybody understands. Yeah. It never happens when you expect it to. Usually when you get the big gig, when Chris Blackwell got the tape by this strange mix of things through Robbie Williams and da-da-da, and because I produced Take That's first album, so there was all this like 20-year history there. There was no plan that I knew. Right. I feel that I was following my destiny.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't want to get too Star Warsian about it.
I get it. I mean, I have had a similar thing with Conscious too. There's things over the last 10 years, little conversations, things that have happened. I had no idea what they were at the time, and suddenly all these things came together of knowing this person there. Yeah, exactly. Everyone that I've needed to do something Conscious to has almost effortlessly appeared.
So here's the problem I have with the thing. I can see that all working as life unfolding, like a tree unfolds into a beautiful thing and then grows and dies. But the only thing I struggle with, why am I so lucky? Or you are so lucky that I'm born in this white middle class, I'm on the top 5% of the world. And not only that, I get up in the morning, I'm driven by passion for what I do. I don't have too many grey days, lying in bed feeling bad. So did I make that, or did God give me that? Or, there is no answer to that, and the best thing is just to be grateful and say thank you for this beautiful day.
And I guess also, being as privileged as we are, what are we going to do? If it's not us doing it, but what's going to be done, let's say, with that privilege?
Through us.
Yeah.
We're getting into too. I think we should cut there. No, it's interesting. One Giant Leap really was born out of me and Jamie's interest in having conversations like this. So it was really like, let's make an excuse so we can go and meet Noam Chomsky or Stephen Fry or whoever and have conversations like this and film it and put it into our music, and it'll be great. Yeah. And so that's luckily what happened.
So what would you say, we've got kind of a few minutes.
Good.
What would you say to somebody that was watching this, that has a creative instinct, has a kind of passion for music or art or writing, whatever it may be, and they don't believe in themselves? Because I think that's also a big struggle. Clearly you've got, you talked about, in fact, your own kind of self-doubt doing the music for Conscious too, but you've got a lot of reference points you can look back on in your life. Produce the first Take That album, things are giant. You can go, I think I can do this. But what would you say to someone that needs to learn to trust their creative capacity?
I don't think anybody does. I mean, as I said, the Conscious 2, after I've been making music for 30 years, doing gigs, doing adverts, I've done everything. Pop albums, rock albums, reggae albums, films, gigs, Grammy things, and all kinds of stuff. But still, the little thing can floor you and go, I can't do it. I can't think of anything. I'm rubbish. All my ideas are gone. I'm like David Bowie. I'm finished.
So I think what you're saying is
sorry, did I say that?
Just despite the neurosis and the self-torturing, get on with it anyway. And anybody says, what shall I do? I just keep doing it. I mean, my nephew, who I haven't got any children, he is kind of like my son, Max, who I love completely, and he's a musician, and he plays at the moment with King Charles. He makes dubstep and house music, he's DJing, he does weddings, he plays the guitar, he's a kind of all-round musician person, but it's been really difficult because he's been doing it now, he's 26 or something, and he's just starting to make a few pennies. But, it's very difficult right now, and that's the hardest thing for music right now. The world has ended. The music world has collapsed. Nobody, it is coming back, and obviously music will go on forever, and it's our connection with God and all that. But right now, nobody can really work out how do you make music and make money so you can have a house and a car and have a normal life. He's doing okay because he's with a kind of near pop star and he's doing the festivals and da-da-da. But underneath him, and when you talk to my generation, they really don't know what to do. I mean, I got lucky because I carried on making music, but I just I became a filmmaker. That was my lucky way out. So there is still budgets in filmmaking, just about. But music, it's a problem. But even though that is the problem, you still have to get going. Because if you've got the passion to make music, you're so ahead of the game. Because there are so many people with no passion in the world. And if you have a passion to do something, you just do that. I mean, I think obsession gets a very bad rap. I think nothing good happens without obsession. I agree.
Love, music.
True in business as
everything.
Well.
Business, everything. If you're not, they go, oh, he's so obsessed. What a gift. God, he's obsessed. Oh.
Totally. I mean, the interview's not about me, it's about you, but I totally get it. My thing in business has been you live it, you breathe it, it's your baby, it's your child, it's your passion. And then something great happens. It's not you kind of go, oh, I'll put a few hours in and hopefully the universe will support it. There's a full body, soul involvement in doing something.
I'd love to play some more One Giant Leap. There's two One Giant Leap. There's one called Passion, which is with Michael Franti, which is like proper dance music. It was one of the most popular tracks on the first album. And he talks about how the passion is everything. Yeah. Your passion is whether it's for religion or whether it's for anything. It's a beautiful thing, and it's driven me on for 40 years of getting up in the morning and just fiddling about with music and not really trusting my process at all, or not really knowing even where I'm going. People say, where shall I go? Well, that be decided. You don't have to decide that. All you've got to do is just carry on doing it because it's beautiful.
Great. You want to play that clip, the Passion clip? Or you want to play another clip?
No, I want to play another clip, actually, yeah. I wanted to play, because I know we've got time, but we haven't got that much time. Yeah. So what I'm going to talk about is the second, so the first two tracks we played were for the first One Giant Leap.
Yeah, which was called One Giant Leap.
Called One Giant Leap. Yeah. The second one, we had business problems without going into it too far. I mean, we really thought we cracked it with the second one, but it actually never even got released. So it's been out on bootlegs. So there's people who have seen, lots of people who have seen it, especially in our world and the hippie world.
People like me that have got pirated copies.
Yeah, everyone, and God bless. On one level, okay, I'm not making money, but on another level, people are hearing what I've done, and that's the most important thing. Yeah. Anyway, so it's 2007. It was called What About Me? We've just got the rights back from the people who had it and didn't want to release it.
Stored in a shed somewhere.
So now we're polishing it up and changing it a little bit. It's not going to be called What About Me? We're going to call it One Giant Leap 2. We're going to pretend What About Me never happened, so the fans can go, oh, but it's the same, but I still love it, hopefully. But so we're going to kind of push it out into the world now, because maybe the world is ready now. I mean, we had, Playing for Change took the concept of street musicians
I was going to ask you, I'm just throwing I don't care about the time anymore. I just had the conversation.
Okay. Hey.
so we're already over 25 minutes. Okay. So we had a brief conversation before we started filming. I was saying, because Gary Barlow, I think it was last summer, did this thing for the Jubilee or whatever it was. Maybe it was a couple of years ago, whatever it was. And I was asking you how that was for you, kind of seeing what you and Jamie did, how it's inspired other work. Just say anything about...
well, especially Gary, because I produced First Take That album, you know, so it was
launched
really
his
good
career,
singing
yeah.
with the headphones and the little... I mean, I'm surprised it hasn't gone wider, that there aren't more. There's only a few things like Playing for Change, maybe Gary did it, and there's another one called Jelly Music, which I just heard, which is really good. Check Jelly Music out, fantastic. It's a mix of, like, you hit somebody and you hear them, and then you can mix these other people in, and it's all live, no miming, so that's all good.
So the question was,
Gary,
people
Gary.
kind of taking the idea and kind of, because sometimes creative, that's quite frustrating. You have an idea.
Yeah,
has that
they
been
only
the case?
took it, but everyone's only really taken one aspect of it. The thing about One Giant Leap, why it hasn't been really big, is it's a bit too complex. Right. And there's a bit too mention of, it's all about spirit and God and connection and oneness, but I think in a really cool, sexy way.
Yeah.
Like Anita Roddick said to us that if you want to get these deep messages across, you've got to compete with Starbucks and Levi's, and you know, that's where you've got to be. So that's the whole thing with One Giant Leap, is trying to make the language accessible for as mainstream as possible and keeping everything edited and concise and putting in celebrity every now and again, because Stephen Fry brings people in to watch it.
Yeah. You never know. Maybe in 2007, God decided the world wasn't ready for One Giant Leap 2. And maybe,
I think so.
Maybe, you know, there's certainly a kind of a zeitgeist happening now around consciousness and awakening and that kind of thing in certain circles.
It's going huge.
It's just a timing thing, yeah.
And also, the other thing that I think is that maybe me and Jamie weren't ready, personally.
Okay.
Because actually, we're both doing okay. It would have been nice to be famous and da-da-da, but actually, maybe it's not the best thing in the world. Maybe God's saved us. Because I'm having a great life, and it's a great time, and I'm still being, you know, we're both creating. He's doing workshops now, helping people with their stuff. I'm making films and helping me with my stuff. So we definitely can't complain. Yeah. So maybe it was a blessing. Yeah. But having said that, what I'd like to finish with is this idea of the One Giant Leap 2 coming, and the end of the film, or the last chapter, is called Grace. And it's really about how a belief in spirit, or a belief in something that isn't actually visible in the room right now, how does that actually help? Because a lot of people dispute its validity, and other people are so obsessed with its validity that they don't see. So we've got all different people talking about that at the beginning. We've got Krishna Das singing Mero Guru Dev, which is beautiful. A little story on that is I turned up with him, and I'd had this track, Mero Guru Dev, for years, and I didn't know it wasn't an Indian guy. I didn't know it was Krishna Das. And he walked in the room, and I didn't know. This was like 2003. He wasn't quite so famous then. Maybe he was, but I didn't really know who he is. And he came in, and then we talked, and then he left, and I didn't really do anything with him. And then someone pointed out, Krishna Das sings that song, Mero Guru Dev. So I called him. I said, hey, KD, I'm really sorry, I missed the point. Can you come back and do something? And of course he did, and we recorded that, which I think is a beautiful, beautiful prayer. And then you get people from Frank Skinner to Stephen Fry talking about their relationship with God. And then you get the beautiful Michael Franti saying, why must I feel like this today? I'm a soldier, but I'm afraid.
Beautiful. Duncan, we're going to close this clip in a second. Thank you so much for your time and energy today. It's been a real joy.
Thanks, Alex.
And thank you also for your efforts. And I'm sorry that I tortured you this summer doing the music for Conscious too, but I really appreciate your efforts.
Thank you,
so.
Sir.
Thank you, and we're going to finish with that clip, and we look forward to talking to you again on Conscious 2, hopefully very soon. Bye-bye.